Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Hurley, and I'm joined today by Seamus Brady to discuss the opening weekend of the Allianz football and hurling leagues this weekend. Just a quick mention to our sponsors at Capture Athletics. If you want the best gear around, check them out if you haven't already. So yeah, Seamus, the club season is, it's nearly done. It's not done quite yet, but there's only two finals left this weekend in junior and intermediate. But yeah, the Allianz League does start this weekend without any pre-season competitions. It feels a bit weird, maybe better for the players, but all roads lead to the Allianz League this weekend.
Yeah, man, you're buzzing to jump into this now. We're doing it back-to-back as well. Me and Aaron did a back-to-back there on Monday. And Aaron had actually been on John McMahon, J-Mac podcast. So a big shout out to him. That's a deadly pod with, he was with GA Stats app as well with Kevin McGorty. It was a very good pod. Aaron did back. And by the end of my podcast, I think what time was it? It was kind of pushing 10:30 by the time we were finished. I think both of us were knackered, but we're bright and early now. It's 7:20. So you're looking forward to jumping in and, yeah, it definitely feels like a bit of a novelty not having the preseason competitions and everything building into the Allianz Leagues. Is definitely giving it a bit of a unique feeling from the start. I would argue it's probably better for the players in terms of their welfare. I think there is a bit of nostalgia around some of the preseason competitions, especially if you look up towards Ulster, Munster hurling, things like that. There's definitely a bit of prestige around them, but there are other competitions, which I won't name, but they haven't felt important for the last number of years, and they've kind of just been boxes to tick. So I would argue if that was the case, me and you called for it last year, that that the preseason competitions be removed if the calendar is so tightly packed. And they have been, and now the players, apart from obviously the club finals, the players have had a lot of rest. And I expect most teams to come into this weekend looking pretty sharp.
Exactly. So yeah, and we'll get into the games. Just a quick heads up as well. We the week of the Gaelic games there, and it's congrats to just the Fina and the Coola for winning the club championships. Didn't have much coverage on my page during the weekend. The obvious reason was I was at the backward team for SARS. Disappointing for the lads, but look, congratulations to the Fina. Deserved the win. Absolutely brilliant from their point of view. And brilliant for Coola as well in winning the championship over Cavan in the football as well. Great day out in Croke Park for both, and there was back reactions from Seamus and Aaron and their channels, so check them out if you haven't already. But reiterate again, congratulations to the Fina and Coola, and for SARS, brilliant journey, and it's a journey I will never forget, and hopefully there will be more journeys with that SARS team in future years. But we'll get on to the action now, and we'll start off at Division 1 of the Allianz Football League, and we'll go chronologically in terms of when the games are on. So the first game chronologically is on Saturday at 5:15 on RT2 from Pearse Stadium. It is Galway against Armagh, a repeat of last year's All-Ireland final. It's a bit of a weird feeling, this, Seamus, because it's the first day out in the Allianz League. Again, as we mentioned, there's no pre-season competitions. Both sides are going in kind of under the radar, small bit. Galway, it's difficult to come back after last year. Obviously, Armagh, the off-season was a bit, I don't know, how would you describe it? But look, these sides, they met in the All-Ireland final. That was coincidentally their last competitive game. So yeah, how will they be fixed going into this one?
I think it will tell us a lot about Galway's kind of preparations and their plans for 2025 in terms of the league and beyond. And I definitely think, look, the league definitely isn't the be all and end all. And we do have to take every single performance that we get in the league with a pinch of salt, because it shows us what we're capable of. It shows us what the teams are capable of, but it definitely doesn't guarantee that they will produce it. I mean, Derry last year, I was sold on them. When I saw them beat Dublin in that Allianz League final in Croke Park, I was sold on Derry, and they went on to have a disastrous championship. So the league definitely is a showcasing of what a team is capable of, but definitely not an absolute certified guarantee that they are going to deliver that when the championship comes around. Galway, Dublin, they have been, brilliant at kind of pulling the wool over people's eyes, making you think that they're rubbish, and then the championship comes around and then they turn up ready to go. For Galway, their mentality going into this season will be very interesting to look at, because their defeat in that All-Ireland final, it reminded me a lot of actually Kerry in the LGFA, their defeat to Dublin in 2023, because they'd lost the final to Meath in 2022. And I'd compare that final to the final that Galway lost to Kerry in the same year in 2022, where both of those teams going in were underdogs. They were up against, a team that they were expected to lose to. But there was this feeling of, oh, well, this team hasn't reached its peak yet. So there'll definitely be another chance down the road. Whereas the second final loss for both sides felt significant, felt way more significant on the day. It felt like Galway had let their best chance pass them by. That's what it felt like on the day. Now, is that their best chance? Only time will tell. And when you see like the hits that teams like Dublin have taken in the off season, losing the likes of Brian Fenton, James McCarthy, like it is as open as I can ever remember the football championship being. Like, there's nobody that would be able to absolutely, without question, say this is the team that's going to win the All Ireland. You just don't know. But for Galway, the hammer blow of losing another final, 2 finals in 3 seasons, it will be very interesting to see their mentality. If they come out into this league with bad intentions and, they put on some outstanding performances, but it doesn't feel like they're absolutely going over the top, then I would fancy them to have another crack at the All Ireland. But if they have a league like, for example, the one that Donegal had a couple of years ago under Paddy Carr, and then when Aidan O'Rourke came in and they got relegated with a whimper, didn't put up a fight at all, it is a kind of a foreshadowing for the championship. It's definitely not a certified guarantee of what's going to come, but it's definitely a prelude, if you like.
Is there a feeling that Galway need to win a national trophy? Because you mentioned 2 All-Ireland finals there. They also lost the National League final to Mayo in 2023 as well. That just popped into my mind as well. So is it an onus for Galway to just win a national trophy and get it on the board and just give them a bit of confidence? Or do you think that's not really a must?
It's a good question. I would be interested to know how much the Galway players actually do value the league, in terms of how badly do they want to win it. Like Joyce, I remember Pádraig Joyce putting out a strong lineup for that league final against Mayo, and basically being like, what's the point of being here if you're not going to want to win it? And that was the attitude going in. Unfortunately, for them, they did lose that final. But the amount of effort that you do have to put in to get there, it will be very interesting. And look, the other thing that we have to talk about when we're previewing the weekend is the new rules. Like, we're going to see completely new. So if ever there was a weekend where I genuinely haven't a breeze what's going to happen, I think this weekend might be right up there. But for Galway, I definitely think for Joyce, it will be starting to be on his mind now, because the way they lost that All-Ireland final felt very deflating. If they have a bad year this year, which I don't think they will, but if they have a bad year this year, all of a sudden he could be under pressure. So I think winning a trophy could be of some help, but we've seen in the past, like it definitely didn't help Mickey Hart stay in the Derry job. It's a bit of a success in the moment, but it means nothing if you don't back it up. And like, one of the things I'll always say is, like, the league, while yes, it is important, it isn't the be all and end all. If you have a terrible league but have an amazing championship and you win it, no one really cares about the league. If you have an amazing league and a terrible championship, everybody very quickly forgets about the league. But if you have an amazing league and then follow it up with an amazing championship, all's rosy.
Like Kerry did in 22, doing the treble, wasn't it? Yeah, Munster League and then All Ireland. But I don't know, will any team do that in the near future? Especially this year, it's so open, and no doubt about it. But just a prediction for
about the league to take into consideration this weekend is, I think Division 1 this year, in contrast to previous seasons, I think Division 1 this year, they are the 8 best teams in the country, which makes this year so hard to predict. In previous years, you've looked at Dublin and Derry in Division 2, and you know that they're in the top 8. Armagh and Donegal last year, you knew they were in the top 8. This year, like, you could argue Roscommon, you could maybe argue Monaghan, but no, I think this is the top 8 teams.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that as well. But in terms of this game, Armagh and Galway, I have a feeling with the new rules, the fact they played each other in the All-Ireland final last year, I think this is a draw written all over. What do you think, Seamus?
Yeah, I'll go with a draw.
Yeah, I'd go for a draw as well. But let us know in the comments what you think of that game. It should be very, very interesting. And Ulster Derby's next, and it is Tyrone against Derry in Armagh at 6 o'clock in Division 1 of the Allianz Football League on Saturday, and it's on the BBC iPlayer and GA Go. And we're pointing out as well, you talked about double headers and stuff like that. Just what I mentioned first, the Tyrone and Derry hurlers are actually playing in Division 2 of their Allianz League at 4 o'clock in the same venue. So that's a double header with the footballers. You know what? you have to give credit there to Tyrone and Derry County Board and the GA themselves for that. Just first of all,
of course, and it's something that we've spoke about that just makes sense from a business point, from an employee point, like from having people in one stadium compared to another stadium. It makes so much more sense to just do more double headers. It's better for business and it's easier to manage. I don't understand why it's, not something that the GA try to do as much as possible. And I remember we had a comment last year, because I remember around this time last year, I think I was saying, why do we not do more double headers? And someone commented saying, he was like, most pitches can't handle 2 games in February, and you have a think before yapping, lads. And he gave one of those like sarcastic thumbs up, and he linked an article, and I read the article. And it was an article that said that Mayo trained on McHale Park. And I was like, well, okay, well, if you can't... and I was like, McHale Park does numerous double headers with clubs. But then also, if the pitch is so fragile, why are you doing heavy training sessions there?
Especially when there's an air dome.
Yeah, especially when you have the air dome, and especially when you have multiple different club pitches around Mayo and everything that are top-notch. Like, I don't know. I just found it funny, but in terms of, it was one of those comments that I just couldn't help be like, this is kind of funny. Like, I kind of want to engage with this one here. But I respected his opinion. Like, it's another opinion into the game. And personally, I just look at it and say, double headers, as much as they are possible, they should be done. And I'm delighted that this one is being done, because it's exposure for the hurlers. You would fancy Derry in that league game, but Tyrone are, there's a hurling scene growing there in Tyrone, and I would fancy them to give them a right good game. The football will be a feast. Like, I mean, obviously Tyrone will be without the Errigal lads, you'd imagine. I don't think that Malachy is going to drag them back in straight away.
Especially not the Canavans, no way.
Especially given what Dara and Rory, the hits that they took against Coola. But even then, I don't expect to see Joe Goulds or Peter Hart line out in this game. But Tyrone still have a lot of talent. And there's a lot of players I'd be very interested to see. Will they line out players like Owen McElholm, Shea O'Hare? Like, I'd be very interested to see if those lads are used. Niall Morgan, I think how he will play, the new rules. He said it himself that he kind of over-exaggerated how much he came out. Well, that seemed to me like a typical Niall Morgan game in the FRC. I'd be very interested to see his role in this game as well. A game between Tyrone and Derry will never be dull. Like, there's definitely going to be a bit of fire to this game. I would fancy Tyrone at home to nick it by a point or two. But I think it will be on a knife edge throughout the entire game.
I've actually seen some predictions say that Tyrone will get relegated for Division 1 and they'll have a poor year with the new rules. I'm like, you look at the panel of players that Tyrone have. Malachy O'Rourke's come in as manager, a born winner, obviously, won the All-Ireland with Wally Graham's Glen. And you have a Division 1 team in, I'm going to actually flip the coin here, in Derry, who, no offence to Paddy Haney, but they appointed a guy that wasn't clearly their first choice. They took, 3 months to appoint him. So, and Chrissy McCaig's retired. The buy-in last year, like the performance against Kerry in the All-Ireland quarterfinal, it looked like they didn't want to be in Croke Park genuinely. Would you be more worried about Derry or Tyrone going into this year?
Definitely Derry. The way that they messed around in terms of their managerial appointment, and I just, it didn't scream confidence. Like, it wasn't like they were like, okay, we've got rid of Mickey Hart. This is who we want. This is the plan. We're going to do this, this, and this. It was like, we've got rid of Mickey Hart. Like, it was literally like they hadn't a notion what they were going to do. for a long period of time. And then, of course, you know, all the rumours about who they were going to appoint, and then eventually they end up with Paddy Tally, who, if they would have wanted him, Tally was available from early doors. And if they had ever wanted him, you'd imagine they might have been able to get it done sooner. And Tally is a very, very good defensive coach. But in terms of taking them to the next level in terms of their attacking output, which they need if they want to win in All Ireland, because they can't keep relying on Shane McGuigan to score everything for them. Like, they need more threats. And the thing is you look at Donegal 2012, which is something that I think is quite comparable to the trajectory that Derry team was on up until the bandwagon fell apart. Is Jim first came in, made them super, super solid at the back, very hard to play against, very hard to beat. But then he added to them in terms of their attacking threats. And yes, the obvious ones were, you know, Michael Murphy, Colin McFadden, Paddy McBurty, but they also had players like Frank McGlynn, Carl Lacey bombing forward. And you didn't really know. And players like that would always chip in with a point, 2 points, everything like that in every game. Donegal always had a wide variety of scores. So Derry need to obviously continue to, you know, improve on that aspect of their game. And I just would wonder if that is Tally's expertise. And if it isn't, because maybe it is, but if it isn't, I hope that he has somebody alongside him who can bring that side to the game. And I'd be very interested to see how they get on, Derry.
It will be, no doubt about it. But yeah, I'd agree with you on the prediction itself. I'd probably go for Tyrone by a point or two. It should be a close game, though. Judging by Tyrone, don't have the air bill clear on, lads, but it'll be an opportunity for maybe the likes of Conor Cush to come into this team and perform well. Like, we'll have to see what happens. There is a comment coming in here from Gavin O'Reilly here. Tyrone Derry is interesting. People are backing Tyrone to do better in the league, but even when Derry were bad last year, they still went further than Tyrone. They both got new managers, so we will see. Yeah, we will see. Look, last year was just weird. Just the quarterfinal, the whole the quarterfinal, the preliminary quarterfinal. Like, Roscommon beat Tyrone. I did not expect to see that coming, really. But yeah, it was just a weird kind of set of events. But we both predicted Tyrone will go on ahead and win that game in Croke Park on Saturday evening. Live at TG Tower at 7:30 is Dublin against Mayo in Division 1. It will be weird in a way, because I think someone put up this on X earlier today. There's 3 games in Croke Park. There's the triple header in Croke Park. There is the All-Ireland Junior Football Championship final between Cavan and Naomh Padraig. There's Dublin Antrim in the hurling and Dublin Mayo in the football. All 3 games have completely different rules. Like,
you didn't even think about that.
It's mad when you think about it. Yeah, you'd see one style of old Gaelic football in the Carrow and Naomh Padraig game, and then the new style of Gaelic football later on that evening.
I haven't even thought about what's the pitch going to look like.
That's like, true, yeah.
Is the pitch just going to be the same for the Caharua game against Naomh Padraig, and then they just have to ignore the 40-meter arc? Like, it'd be very, very interesting. And then with the hurling, like, it would be weird seeing a hurling match being played on the pitch with a 40-meter arc and the whole line across the middle. But look, It is what it is.
And added to that as well, Crossmalloy and Dean Rovers are playing Ballinderry on the Sunday at 1:30 in Croke Park. So
yeah, of course. So it'd be very, very interesting. And yeah, I feel like as players, like, especially if players are trained in with that system, like, obviously for the leagues, you know, you'd look at players like Jordan Flynn and that are inter-county boys, and you would expect that they have been doing some work with the new rules, and then they get put on a pitch and they're outside the 40-meter arc. They might just fancy a crack to see what they're capable of. And definitely if they warm up, you know, when they run out the tunnel out towards the goal, there is no way that players aren't going to have a shot from outside 40 meters to open themselves up in the game. No way that they're not going to do it, especially when they have that first free shot at the posts where they all run out and to do their warm up and everything. Going into this game, Dublin and Mayo is always, again, very similar to Derry and Tyrone. The story writes itself. Like, you're never not going to be entertained by a Dublin and Mayo game. They always take on a life of its own. I think you could argue both Dublin and Mayo they're definitely up there with the 2 best supported counties. So, like, there's always a great atmosphere at these games. Mayo, I think pound for pound, are probably the most followed team in the country. So like they always bring a massive audience, especially for the Dublin games, and Dublin vice versa. Like there's nothing that will get the Dublin fans up for a game like playing against Mayo. And yeah, just the unbelievable clashes that they've had down through the years. Even the championship game last year on the road was brilliant. Like very, very entertaining game of Gaelic football. And it was unfortunate that Mayo did fall off at the preliminary quarterfinals, and then Dublin didn't even go much further. Like you looked at that game and thought, here's a proper championship game. Both of these will be in it when it's all said and done. Neither of them even made it to the final four, which is how crazy last year was. I would fancy Mayo probably slightly in this one. I just look at it and think Dublin have been hit so hard in the off season with Fenton going, with McCarthy going. We've no word on players like Cluxton, Mannion. Like we haven't had it confirmed that the players that did leave in the past, like McCaffrey, like Mannion, like Cluxton, and like especially when Fenton and McCarthy left, there was this feeling that like, you know, a lot of eyes kind of turned to them and it was like, are they going to go as well now? Like, is this what's happening? Is everybody going now? So I'll be very interested to see what the team is for Dublin. I'm very interested to see what the midfield pairing is. Like, who is it? Is it going to be Tom Lahiff? Is Killian McGuinness going to be in there? Are they going to, you know, drop someone like Kieran Kilkenny or Brian Howard into the midfield? Be very interesting to see. But I think Mayo are more structured. They're more settled, I think is the word I'm looking for. They're more, you know what Mayo are going to come with in this game. Dublin are a little bit more in flux. And having seen how over the last 2 years we have started the league slow, especially last season losing to Monaghan, and then, you know, go back a couple of years losing to Armagh and Croke Park. Like Croke Park definitely is no safety net for Dublin in the opening round of the league, and I think Mayo might fancy it.
Is there an argument though that Mayo are not settled either? Pádraig O'Hara's gone, Cillian O'Connor's gone for the year as well. They seem to be very. Yeah, but just around the dressing room, maybe.
Oh, definitely. Like, there's no doubt that there would have been big influences on the dressing room, but you know, once you cross the white lines, like, game's on. And like, yeah, they are those grains of rice to have those characters in the dressing room and everything, but Killian wasn't the key player that he was for Mayo last season, which I think would have kind of had an influence on his decision to step away for the year. And with O'Hara as well, O'Hara would start the odd game, but he definitely wasn't nailed on. And I think when you look at players like Sam Callanan, Jack Coyne coming in, I think it was only a matter of time before one of them nails down a place.
And like, were they over-reliant on Ryan O'Donoghue last year? Like, O'Donoghue ended up as top scorer of the championship, despite Mayo being knocked out in the prelim.
The problem, I think, has been with Mayo over the last few years is just the inconsistencies of some of their key forwards. Like, you look at players that they have in their forward line. They have so many players in their forward line that you look at and you're like, God, when this guy's on it, he is unbelievable. Like, I think James Carr is a good example. Like, if you were to put together a show reel of James Carr where you're to just like show his best goals and his best points, you'd think this guy was footballer of the decade. Like, literally, some of the goals he scored have been some of the best goals I've ever seen in Gaelic football. And he has, no question about it, he has a sensational talent. It's just, how can Mayo get the best out of him? Because once you know what he's capable of, I'd say it can be frustrating for fans when it's not being produced week in, week out. So I'd say for this league, for Mayo, if they can get a full forward line going of O'Donoghue, Tommy Conroy and James Carr, and if those three lads are on it on the same day, they can tear any defence apart.
We'll have to see how this game goes in Croke Park. I slightly hit Dublin, to be honest with you. I think this Mayo team is... I don't know what it is. Like last year against Derry, the way they went out, I don't know. Is Kevin McStay kind of halfway out the door? We'll have to see this year, obviously. But I think Dublin might nick this game. We'll have to see what happens on Saturday. And then moving on to the Division 1 game on Sunday, it is Kerry against Donegal at 1:45 and on TG Car. It is on in Kerry. I'm actually not sure is it on Tralee or Killarney, but Kerry do have home advantage in this one. Long trip for Donegal, but an exciting year building for Jim McGuinness' side, I'd imagine, and for Kerry too with the new rules. And they're probably the one team that you look at. If you play Tony Brosnan, Sean O'Shea, and David Clifford at the full forward line, it's like goodbye to any defence under these new rules.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think a lot of people will tune into this one. And one thing I'm guaranteeing is McGuinness is going to throw something out that will make people be like, what? So I think a lot of people will be going anticipating what McGuinness might do with the new rules and seeing how it's going to go. I'm buzzing for this game. I think it's the perfect opponent for Donegal to play against in terms of, you could argue maybe playing Dublin and Croke Park would be a way to, build on that. But like you're going in playing against, Gaelic football royalty there in Kerry. And, if you can do these new rule magic on the Cliffords and Shawnee O'Shea, like there's not really more high profile players in the game right now. I'm fascinated to see what they bring. I'm fascinated to see how McGuinness sets up. I think he will keep a lot of cards close to his chest, though. I think he'll keep something in the bag for championship. But I think this game has a 1-point win written all over it, one way or another. I wouldn't be 100% confident in saying who. If you push me on it, I might say Kerry by 1.
I'd probably go for Kerry as well. But just a word on David Clifford before we get into Division 2. He hasn't played now since October. It's a long break for David Clifford. It's great for him, obviously. Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant for him just to gain a bit of fitness and get a bit of rest in the off-season. But for everybody else, watch out.
But does that mean he's going to be snapping at the heels, ready to go? And yes, he will be inside a good bit, but I can see him and Shawnee swapping the way that they used to do in the championship last season, where David would come out and Shawnee would go in, and then David would go in and Shawnee would come out. That was very dangerous last season. But with the new rules, both of them can belt over a score from distance, and both of them are really, really dangerous to have inside one-on-one. So Kerry are very well set for these new rules, I have to say. And I can't wait to see David take on a 2-pointer, to be honest.
I think we all can.
Get ready to make a reel out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. But one fella actually pointed out David Clifford scoring, them kind of tight angle shots that isn't necessarily out the 40-meter mark, that nearly you'd imagine they're worth 2 points, but they're not. And David Clifford kicks those for fun as well. So imagine if those were worth 2 points. He's going to rip these new rules apart. He's absolutely outstanding. But that is the division. Actually, I'd say Kerry will win this game. Home advantage might be enough for them, in my opinion. So that is all the Division 1 games. Moving on to Division 2. And this is the game that intrigues me the most, I have to say, Seamus. On Sunday at 2 p.m, Roscommon and Down in Dr. Hyde Park on Sunday. And I will say this off the bat, Seamus, I think these two sides will be going up to Division 1.
Interesting. I went with Roscommon and Louth. I think Louth will make history this year, but I think definitely there's an argument there for Down. They definitely have shown talent and potential in all of the games that I've seen them. They've also shown a streak of shooting themselves in the foot and making things more difficult for themselves than it needs to be. Like that Tailteann Cup final where they played against Laois. Yes, Laois, were plucky and they were difficult to play against, but Down could have won that game by 10 points. And they made it really, really difficult for themselves at the end. And I think they only won it by 3 in the end. And Laois were pushing them hard at the end. If Laois went into that final and scored 2-6, you'd imagine Down should have put them away. Without too much fuss. They missed a lot of chances in that game. They've the raw ability. If I was going to compare Down to a Premier League footballer, I'd maybe compare them to someone like Adama Traore, or they've all the ability, they're literally a perfect pace strength, all that stuff. Like they've all that in abundance. Sometimes they're just a little bit reckless in terms of throwing away leads and everything like this. And against Laois, like they had that game in the palm of their hands. And yes, it was a Mark Barry wonder goal, but that goal goes in and all of a sudden they're hanging on. And you would be thinking, how on earth did they ended up here? Roscommon have been stuck in this mode for years now. Too good for Division 2, but unable to really put together 4 or 5 years in a row in Division 1. I think they're going to go back up. I think this is what they do. They're the experts at getting out of Division 2. I think they'll top it again.
Yeah, I'd probably say they'll top it again as well. And I think Down will be promoted, but I think Roscommon will win this game at home, and it should be enough for them to do it. Home advantage is a big thing in this day and age of Division 2. It's an Ulster derby next, Cavan against Monaghan in Breffni Park at 6 p.m. on Saturday. And it's a tough one to call. I think this again has a draw written all over it because it's a derby. Both sides don't like each other. I think this might be one where Cavan nick a draw or something like that in this one. But what do you think?
I think this might be one where Cavan nick a win. I think Monaghan tend to be very unpredictable in the league. I know firsthand they seem to always have Dublin's number in the league. But yeah, I think Cavan, I think Paddy Lynch, if he's back fit, if he starts...
He's not. John McMahon actually confirmed it in his podcast the other night on Monday. I watched that, and Paddy Lynch is going to be out for at least the league.
Okay. You'd be almost tempted to take it back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah, I'll go for a draw as well. It should be a tight game. Ulster derby, both sides don't like each other, obviously, and that is without question, but we're both going for a draw in that one. The next game, and I am going to this one, Cork against Meath in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday at 5 p.m. And there is coverage in the Southern Star, an interview with John Cleary for tomorrow's paper. Check it out if you haven't already. But there is injury news out of the Cork camp, and it's not good. 8 players have left the panel, obviously, in the off-season. E. Maguire is out for the first 2 rounds of the league. David Buckley's out as well. Conor Corbett's out for the full league. Luke Fahey's out. Sean Meehan's out for the full league. Kevin O'Donovan's out for the full league. This is not good from John Cleary's point of view. And you have to feel sorry for him. He has to pick literally a new panel now amongst players. As for Meath, I was on the We Are Meath podcast with Davy Rispin from We Are Meath, obviously. And he was saying there's positivity. Robbie Brennan's come in. He's looking forward to the job. They've owned Frayne there. They've Rory Kinsella, Matthew Costello, Jordan Morris, some very good players that are fully fit. I know it's down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but the more I think about it, the more I think of the injuries. Meath have a huge chance here.
Meath do have a huge chance in this game, and it definitely reminds me a lot of how the league opened up 2 years ago when Meath went down and scored 4 goals, and even though Cork scored pretty heavily themselves, I think they got 116. I think Meath got 4-8 or 4-9 or something that day, and it was ultimately enough for them to get the win. I do think Cork, when Cork have their best 15 out and have a structure and have a system and have a plan, I think it very, very much they are a difficult team to beat. I think I would argue, why are all these lads leaving the panel? I think, is there a lack of ambition there? I don't know, because when I felt like watching the team under Cleary last season, that they were very, very hard to beat for the big teams, but then they kind of struggled to take apart teams that you would expect them to beat. They kind of played to the level of the team they were playing against a lot of the time, and they used the same system regardless of who they were playing against. And while yes, that is effective in terms of getting results, I'd say the players in some way didn't feel like they were building towards anything. It felt like they were just going to stay at that level, for a long time. When you look at, for example, Louth, Louth have been going through the ranks. Louth have got a couple of pastings. Everybody forgets that because, they don't really care about that because the narrative is that Louth are getting better year after year. Dublin annihilated them in the Leinster final last year. Kerry tore them apart in the group stages of the All-Ireland Championship. Louth have had some bad beatings, but the bottom line is that they keep getting better every year, and that that they're building towards something. I would look at the amount of players leaving and think, was there not a long-term strategy, a visible and a kind of one that the players could really buy into? Because if all the players could buy into it, why are 8 players leaving then?
Well, I could break it down like Killian O'Hanlon, Thomas Clancy, and John O'Rourke retired. They just had no more to give. That's fair enough. Killian O'Hanlon retired because of persistent injuries, which is unfortunate for him. He was brilliant at the club championship for Kilshannock. Kevin Flahoy's gone down to Australia. He just wants to spend time down in Australia. Just like any player, like going on a J1 or anything like that, your life's short. You have to go and do these sorts of things. Then the other players, Fionn Hurley's not committing, Damien Gore's not committing, Stephen Sherlock stepped away for the year. That's a player that I don't know the ins and outs of. And the other player, which is obvious, it's Jack Hallan. He was the joint top scorer for play at the Cork Premier Senior Football Championship. He's got to play hurling with the Cork Hurlers. So that's the story on the 8 players. And you look at Blake Murphy leaving the panel as well. But I'm speaking to Cleary actually for the Star. The paper is out tomorrow, but I had the interview with John Cleary. I was speaking to him, and he says, look, it's next man up. The new players have to step up. And maybe this is an opportunity for new players to show what they are made of going into this Meath game. So maybe a positive for Cork. Maybe I'm being too over the top here, but maybe John could be onto something here. Maybe it could be a positive for the players to stake a claim in the starting 15. It
could be. There's no doubt about it. Like it could be something that Cork look back on and think, like the ground had to be cleared for these guys to come through. The way you talked about this game, though, I think that this could be a tough start. Robbie Brennan coming in with Meath. I think Meath might shade this one.
I'm going to nick it to Cork just about by a point or two, but it's going to be very, very tight to call. And a lot of the narrative around Cork is this is a must-win for this team. So, especially with going to Park Esther next week. So we'll have to see what happens with this Cork team. And the side you tip to go promoted is the side that we're focusing on next, Westmeath against Louth in Cusack Park in Mullingar at 2 p.m. on Sunday. I will say this, Louth will win this game because Westmeath have now lost John Hazelin. Ron O'Toole was announced just today. He's left the panel for this year. That's a huge loss for Westmeath. Desi Dolan's left him as manager as well. Dermot McCabe has a huge job in his hands for Westmeath. I think they'll struggle in Division 3. There's no doubt about it. But just on Louth, I think you would be predicting Louth to win this one as well. But just on Louth, just a question before we move on to Division 3, Division 4 in the hurling. Could the new rules scupper Louth a bit? Because you can't play 15 behind the ball now. Louth have to change their strategy somewhat. So could that be the thing that comes a cropper for them?
Definitely could. It could definitely hinder them in terms of what they're capable of doing. But I was impressed with some of their forward play last season. Players like Craig Lennon, players like Kieran Keenan, Sam Mulroy. I do think that they'll be able to still evolve with the rules. Ger Brennan's a very, very shrewd operator, very shrewd tactician. I'd be fairly confident that they'll be able to roll with it. And yes, I do think they're going to win this game. If I'm predicting them to go up and I'm predicting Westmeath to go down, Louth win this game.
That's it. And you go on to Division 3 and Division 4. The games are below on the ticker there for anybody that is wanted to know Division 3 games, but just for the listeners on Spotify, here are the games. It's Leitrim against Laois in Ballinamore at 2:30 on Saturday. Kildare against Fermanagh in St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge at 5 p.m. on Saturday. And then on Sunday, there's a couple of more games as well. That is Antrim against Clare in Corgan Park at 1 o'clock on Sunday, and Offaly against Sligo in Glennisk O'Connor Park at 2 p.m. Any games that catch your eye there, Seamus, at Division 3?
Out of them games, like the teams that I'm most looking forward to, Leitrim Laois, I think will be a big game for the wrong reasons. I think whoever loses that is looking over their shoulder. Kildare and Fermanagh, like they're two teams that I expect to be pushing to go up. And Offaly and Sligo, they're definitely two teams that I'm looking at as potentially, you never know what you're going to get with them. Sligo, I think, could be a dark horse to go up.
Yeah, I'll probably go Sligo and Kildare to go up in this division, in all honesty. Fermanagh will be very tight as well. Fermanagh Kildare should be an interesting game at St. Conan's Park as well. It'd be interesting to see the new Brian Flanagan era in Kildare as well. In Division 4, it is Carlow against Tipperary in Netwatch Cullen Park at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Wexford against London at 7 p.m. in Chadwick's Wexford Park on Saturday. And then there's a couple of more games at Division 4 on Sunday. It's Wicklow against Waterford at 2 p.m. in Aughrim on Sunday, and Longford against Limerick on Sunday at 2 p.m. in Glenn Brothers Piers Park. What would you expect at Division 4? Probably Wicklow, Limerick, Wexford, those sorts of teams to challenge?
Yeah, I'd definitely be looking at Limerick, Wexford and Wicklow as the three that I expect. Longford, you'd imagine that they should be in contention, but Longford have very much flattered to deceive under Paddy Christie. And I think one thing that we've seen, with managers and stuff like that and with inter-county teams, especially if you look at Kildare, is that multiple managers failed in that job. So you'd start to question, whether it is a manager issue or whether it's more the kind of culture in the camp and everything like that. So I would expect that when it's all said and done, it's Wicklow and Limerick that get out, the same two teams that went down. But we'll see. And I think if anybody can break that up, I think it's Wexford.
Yeah, exactly. It should be a very, very tight Division 4 campaign. There's no doubt about that. Just quickly onto the hurling, there's a few games to look at here. And it starting off in Division 1, it is Wexford against Cork in Chadwick's Wexford Park on Saturday at 5 p.m. Cork will probably win this game because Wexford have a lot of players leaving the panel. But how important is the league to Cork just to win a trophy? They haven't won a trophy since 2018. They haven't won the league since 1998. The All-Ireland since 2005. I know Cork made a lot of strides last year, but how important is the league for Pat Ryan's team?
That's very important in terms of building squad depth and everything. It's massively important. I think you would look at the league with Cork and be like, this is a good opportunity to test players who've shone in the club championships, like Sean Desmond, like Adam Murphy, maybe to try and develop a bit of squad depth around it. I'd kind of be leaning to Cork to win this game. I think Wexford might be a difficult second year for Keith Rossiter with the players that he's lost in the off season. But I think Cork will get off to a good start with a win.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Cork to win that game as well. The two other games in Division 1A is Clare against Kilkenny on Sunday at 2 p.m. That's over the TG Carr Clare and Apids on Cusack Park, and Galway against Tipperary in TG Carr at 3:45 p.m. That's on at Pearse Stadium. You would expect probably Galway at home to beat Tip, to be honest with you. Clare maybe to open their season defending the All-Ireland with a win over Kilkenny.
Both of these games is so hard to tell. Both of them is really, really hard to tell because I think out of all those four teams, I think if we're honest, we've no idea what level they're going to turn up at. Clare could batter Kilkenny. Kilkenny could batter Clare. And the same in the Galway Tipperary game. If I'm to actually pick, I'll go with Kilkenny to beat Clare. I think Clare might be a little bit flat coming out of the gate as All-Ireland winners. I think we've seen that happen a few times down through the years. The All-Ireland champions being a bit slow out the gate, obviously enjoyed the All-Ireland win. But I don't think we'll have too much to do with that, to be honest. It is July until that final was played. And for Galway Tip, it's a very important season for both of those counties. Both of them were very, very much humbled last season. I think the league will be important to both of them to build the confidence heading into the championship. I would probably... I'm not confident in this prediction at all because I don't know what they're going to come with. I really don't know what they're going to come with. Tip obviously have Liam Cahill. Galway have Micheál Donoghue back at the helm. Both of them will be desperate to make a statement. So I'll go for a draw because I haven't the breeze. What are you thinking?
Yeah. I think you both will probably go for a draw in the Galway Tip game. Probably Clare to beat Kilkenny. Just streaming through Division 1B. Dublin Antrim is on at Croke Park at 5:15 on Saturday evening. Offaly against Carlow, Glencoe Connor Park at 2 p.m. on Saturday, and then 2 p.m. on Saturday as well as Westmeath against Laois in Cusack Park in Mullingar. Dublin Antrim probably the main game out of those three over the weekend.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that I'm looking forward to. Very, very interested to see how Neil O'Callaghan will get on. He's probably still on the beer right now after the Nafeen All-Ireland win. But in all seriousness, no, he is a professional man. He will be at the Dublin at the helm, and I imagine he's already had his first real training sessions with them now, building up to this game. Antrim will be a sticky opponent. They always are. I think that Dublin will shade this one, especially in Croke Park. Good opportunity to, get it exposed to some Dublin fans who maybe only pay attention to the football. It's a good opportunity to build up and start the Donoghue era with a win.
Yeah, it should be very interesting.
Gaelic on air, and Jesus.
Long night. It should be tough for Dublin. Waterford have a bye this weekend. It's worth noting they're Division 1B this year. And just along the ticker there, I'm not on the YouTube channel, there is Division 2, Division 3 and Division 4 games in this as well. But just the structure of the hurling before we leave this podcast, Seamus, like the hurling structure this year, 1A, 1B, 2, 3, 4, better than last year?
Yeah, definitely. I think the tweaks needed to be made. I think everybody kind of knew that the structure was very kind of repetitive in terms of the league matches lost their meaning. Like it was like games were played where, there was like genuine questions about whether or not a team wanted to win this game or was going to go out and try win this game. And I think that's never good for any competition. So shaking it up and trying something else, it needed to be done. I'm not 100% sold on 1A, 1B, like why not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? But we'll see.
There's 35 hurling teams, so that's why they have to split it up.
Yeah. But I am willing to give it a shot. But I mean, there's always an option of bringing in another team, etc., etc. Like they've got Lancashire, they've got Warwickshire, like.
Yeah, I think so as well. And they have London there as well. They have the 32 counties plus them 3, which it's great for hurling, obviously, and hopefully the likes of Fermanagh, Louth, Longford, all them step it up as well. And hopefully the coverage is better as well, because we can talk about these games, later on down the track. But that's the Allianz League preview for week 1. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff to my channel, Gaelic Statsman. Subscribe to Seamus's channel as well on Cluiche. I will be on his channel in just a tick as well. Yeah. So check that out if you haven't already, if you're still watching this.
Lose our minds.
Exactly, yeah. But if you don't want to see us lose our minds on live, obviously they're all recorded, so they will be on YouTube, Spotify, all them podcasting platforms as well, both our channels. Just mentioned this Capture Legs, thanks for sponsoring the show as well. And until next week, or until about 5 minutes time, we'll see you then, and take care.